I wrote find a better guy in the school ice queen's yearbook. She read it, crossed out every word, grabbed the front of my graduation gown, and kissed me before I could apologize. That was how the most private girl at Sterling Bay High turned our quiet, almost romance into the biggest story of graduation day. But 10 minutes earlier, I had been convinced I was saying goodbye to her forever. My name is Owen Parker. Until senior year, most people at Sterling Bay knew me for three things: running the sound booth during assemblies, taking decent photos for the yearbook, and fixing any piece of school equipment that stopped working 5 minutes before an event. I wasn't unpopular. I had friends. Teachers trusted me. People liked having me around. I was simply easy to overlook. That had never bothered me much until I fell for Evelyn Cross. Everyone knew Evelyn. She had the highest GPA in our class, served as student council treasurer, and had already received an early admission offer from a university on the East Coast. She was beautiful in a way that made people lower their voices when she passed, but beauty wasn't why everyone called her the Ice Queen. Evelyn never flirted. She never joined gossip circles. She answered questions politely, then returned to whatever book she was reading. Boys had asked her to football games, winter formal, spring concerts, and probably events they invented just to have an excuse. Her answer was always some version of, "No, thank you." She wasn't cruel. She was simply impossible to read. Except, somehow, she talked to me. It started in October when the microphone failed during a student council debate. I repaired it while everyone else panicked, and Evelyn stayed behind afterward to help me coil the cables. "You know there are people assigned to do that," I told her. "I know." "Then why are you still here?" She looked at me like the answer was obvious. "Because you are." At the time, I assumed she was being polite. That assumption became the story of our entire senior year. She began showing up in the sound booth before assemblies, bringing me coffee she claimed she had accidentally ordered twice. She sat beside me in the library even when other tables were empty. She remembered that I hated raisins, liked old mystery movies, and always became quiet before important photography competitions. Once, when I lost a regional contest by 1 point, she found me behind the auditorium and said, "The judges were wrong. You didn't even see the other photos." I didn't need to. "Evelyn, that isn't how judging works. It is how loyalty works." I thought about that sentence for 3 months. Still, she never said she liked me. And I never asked. Because Evelyn was leaving for college in Boston while I was staying near our coastal Oregon hometown to study media production. She had a future that seemed carefully planned and enormous. I didn't want to become one more boy trying to convince her to change it. So when graduation arrived, I decided to do the mature thing. I would let her go. Apparently, my version of maturity involved writing something incredibly stupid in her yearbook. The gym was packed with seniors trading signatures while families waited outside for the ceremony. Music echoed through the bleachers, caps disappeared under layers of signatures, and everyone acted excited enough to hide how terrified they were of leaving. I was helping the yearbook staff pack leftover copies when Evelyn appeared beside me. She wore her blue graduation gown open over a white dress. Her silver honor cords hung around her neck, and her dark hair fell over one shoulder. She held out her yearbook. "Sign it." I looked around. "You have approximately 200 better options." I didn't ask them. "Why me?" Her eyes stayed on mine. "You ask that question too often." Before I could answer, she placed the book against my chest. "Last page." Then she walked toward her friends near the stage. I opened the book. Almost every page was covered with messages. "You'll do amazing things. Don't forget us. Future CEO. Smartest person I know." Some people had written phone numbers. Others had drawn crowns beside her name. One guy had taken up half a page telling her to call him when she finally got tired of being single. The final page was nearly blank. Only one sentence appeared at the top in Evelyn's handwriting. "Leave enough space. There's one person I'm waiting for." My heart reacted before my brain could stop it. For a dangerous moment, I imagined she meant me. Then I looked across the gym. Evelyn stood beside Grant Holloway, our class president and debate champion. Grant was confident, polished, and headed to a university only 20 minutes from hers. They looked like people who belonged in the same future. He said something that made her turn toward him. My hope collapsed as quickly as it had appeared. I sat on the lowest bleacher with her yearbook balanced on my knee. I wanted to write something honest. "I'll miss our mornings in the sound booth. You made senior year matter. I've liked you longer than I should admit." Instead, I wrote the one thing that felt safe. "Find a better guy. You deserve someone who can keep up with you." Oh, and I stared at the message. It looked calm, mature, completely false. Before I could change it, someone took the yearbook from my hands. Evelyn stood in front of me. You finished? Yeah. She read the message. Her face became still. I had seen that expression before during student council meetings when someone made a mistake with the budget. It was not a good expression. Owen. Yeah? What is this? I forced a laugh. A yearbook message. I can see that. Students moved around us, but Evelyn didn't seem to notice them. What does it mean? It means exactly what it says. Her eyes narrowed. You think I need a better guy? I think you deserve someone who fits into your plans. And you decided that person isn't you. It wasn't a question. I looked down. You're moving across the country. So? You have everything planned. So? You're Evelyn Cross. Her voice sharpened. And you're Owen Parker. Stop saying our names like one of them matters more. A few nearby students became quiet. I stood, suddenly aware of how public this conversation was. I'm not trying to insult you. No. You're trying to reject yourself before I get a chance to choose you. My chest tightened. Choose me? She looked at me like I had just proven something deeply frustrating. Then she opened the yearbook, pulled a black marker from the pocket of her gown, and drew one hard line through my message. Find a better guy. Crossed out. You deserve someone who can keep up with you. Crossed out. She wrote beneath it in large, clear letters. I already found him. He's just painfully slow. I stared at the page. The gem seemed to disappear. Evelyn, she closed the yearbook and stepped closer. For the first time since I had known her, the Ice Queen looked nervous. Her hand tightened around the book. I brought you coffee every Tuesday. I thought the CAF kept making mistakes. I attended 3 photography club exhibitions. You said you liked the building. I joined the graduation media committee even though I hate cameras. I thought you needed volunteer hours. She stared at me. You really found an explanation for everything. I didn't think that is the problem. Her voice softened. You never thought I could be waiting for you. The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. Grant stood several feet away, smiling like he had understood the situation before I did. I lowered my voice. Were you? Evelyn took one more step until the front of her gown brushed mine. The blank page was for you. My heart slammed against my ribs. All year? Since October. The microphone? It wasn't broken. I blinked. What? She almost smiled. I unplugged it. You sabotaged a student council debate? I needed a reason to speak to you. I laughed once, completely stunned. Evelyn reached up and caught the front of my graduation gown. I have spent 8 months giving you reasons. Her cheeks were turning pink, but she didn't look away. So I'm done being subtle. Then she kissed me, right there beside the bleachers, in front of our classmates. Before I could speak. For 1 second, I couldn't move. Then my hand found her waist, and every goodbye I had prepared disappeared. When she pulled back, the gym erupted. Someone cheered. Someone else shouted, finally. Grant started clapping. Evelyn ignored all of them. She looked only at me. Do you still think I should find a better guy? I shook my head. No good. She placed the yearbook back in my hands. Because I'm not accepting revisions. Then she took my hand and led me toward the graduation line while half our class watched. For the first time, I understood what everyone else had missed about the Ice Queen. She wasn't cold. She had simply been saving all her warmth for one person. And somehow, impossibly, that person was me. But as we reached the auditorium doors, she leaned close and whispered something that made my heart race all over again. You should read what I wrote in your yearbook. I looked at her. What did you write? A rare, dangerous smile curved across her face. You'll find out after graduation. I spent the entire graduation ceremony wondering what Evelyn had written in my yearbook. That was not ideal. The principal was giving a speech about courage, responsibility, and stepping into the future. Parents were crying. Teachers were smiling. Someone in the row behind me kept whispering that his cap was too small. I heard almost none of it. All I could think about was the look on Evelyn's face when she said, "You'll find out after graduation." Every few minutes, I glanced toward her row. She sat with the honor students near the front, posture perfect, expression calm. The Ice Queen again. Except now I knew what that calm expression hid. I knew she had unplugged a microphone just to meet me. I knew she had saved the last page of her yearbook for me. And I knew what it felt like when she grabbed my gown and kissed me in front of half our class. That last part was especially difficult to stop thinking about. Then, as if she felt me staring, Evelyn turned around. Our eyes met. She gave me the smallest smile. Not enough for anyone else to notice. enough to ruin the rest of the principal's speech for me. When my name was called, I walked across the stage, shook 3 hands, accepted my diploma cover, and somehow avoided falling down the stairs. The moment I returned to my seat, my phone buzzed inside my gown. Evelyn, don't read it without me. I smiled before I could stop myself. Me, I wasn't planning to. 3 dots appeared. Evelyn, liar. She knew me too well already. That should have scared me. Instead, it felt strangely perfect. After the ceremony, the football field became chaos. Families crowded around graduates. Cameras flashed everywhere. People threw their caps before teachers could stop them. My mother hugged me so hard I nearly lost my diploma, then held my face between her hands and said, "You kissed Evelyn Cross?" I stared at her. "How do you know that already?" My younger cousin, Theo, raised his phone. "There are 4 videos." 4. 7 now, he corrected. My mother looked delighted. "She's lovely. You've spoken to her once." She thanked me for bringing extra cookies to the media fundraiser. That was 6 months ago. She remembers things. Yes, she did. Across the field, Evelyn stood with her parents and younger sister. Her father, Dr. Malcolm Cross, looked exactly like I expected, serious, tall, and probably capable of making a room nervous without speaking. Her mother, Celeste, looked warmer. She was fixing Evelyn's honor cord while her sister, Tessa, whispered something that made Evelyn roll her eyes. Then Tessa noticed me. Her entire face lit up. She pointed. Evelyn turned. The moment she saw me, something in her expression changed. It was subtle, but I saw it now. The tension in her shoulders disappeared. She said something to her family, then walked toward me. Not slowly, not cautiously, directly. My mother leaned closer. She walks like she has already decided something. That's because she usually has. Evelyn stopped in front of us. "Mrs. Parker." My mother smiled. "Call me June." Evelyn looked briefly nervous. "June." Then my mother hugged her. I had never seen Evelyn freeze so completely. Tessa burst out laughing from behind her. My mother stepped back. "Thank you for making my son stop pretending he doesn't have feelings." "Mom." Evelyn's cheeks turned pink. "I've been trying," she said. My mother nodded seriously. "He's stubborn. I've noticed." They were bonding too quickly. I interrupted before they could create a full list of my flaws. "Evelyn, the yearbook?" She looked at me. I said, "After graduation." "We graduated. You still need family pictures." I stared at her. "You're delaying." "Yes." "Why?" For 1 second, she looked uncertain. Then she glanced toward the edge of the field where the noise was softer. "Because what I wrote is more embarrassing than kissing you in front of everyone." That got my attention. 10 minutes later, after pictures with our families, Evelyn led me behind the old performing arts building. It was quieter there, shaded by cedar trees. The sounds from the field became distant cheering, laughter, camera shutters. She sat on the low stone wall and held out my yearbook. I took it. "Which page?" "Last one." "Of course." I opened it. The final page was almost completely covered in her handwriting. Not a short goodbye. Not a simple good luck. A full letter. At the top, she had written, "Owen, you once told me photographs matter because they prove ordinary moments were real. So this is me making sure you remember ours." I stopped. Evelyn looked away. "Keep reading." I did. She had written about the first day in the sound booth. About the coffee she pretended to order by mistake. About the photography exhibition where I lost and acted like I didn't care. She wrote that she had wanted to hug me that day but didn't know if I would let her. She wrote about every morning she came early just to have 7 quiet minutes with me before everyone else arrived. Then I reached the part that made my chest tighten. "I know you think my future is already planned. It isn't. Boston is a city. College is a school. Neither one decides who matters to me. You kept acting like distance meant I should choose someone easier. But I don't want easier. I want the person who knows when I'm tired before I say it. The person who lets silence feel comfortable. The person who never treats me like something to win." I looked up. Evelyn was touching the silver bracelet on her wrist. Her nervous habit. "You wrote all this before today?" "Last night." "You already knew I was going to tell you to find someone else?" "No." She gave me a dry look. "But I knew there was a strong possibility you would say something painfully self-sacrificing and stupid. That seems unfairly accurate." "I know you." I returned to the letter. The final paragraph was shorter. "I don't know what happens after today. I know Boston is far. I know your program is here. I know people will tell us high school relationships don't last. But I also know I spent 8 months waiting for you to understand that I chose you. I'm not giving up now just because the road becomes less convenient. At the bottom, she had written one last line in darker ink. So don't tell me to find a better guy again. I already love this one. I read it twice. Then a third time. When I looked up, Evelyn's face was completely red. You love me? She crossed her arms, which would have looked intimidating if she weren't avoiding my eyes. That is what I wrote. I know. I just wanted to hear you say it. She stared at me. You're enjoying this. A little. Owen. I stepped closer. Evelyn. Her expression softened despite herself. Yes, she said quietly. I love you. The words felt different out loud. More real. More dangerous. More beautiful. I placed the yearbook beside her on the wall. I love you too. She blinked. The Ice Queen, who could argue with teachers and silence an auditorium with one look, actually blinked like she had not expected the answer. You do? I laughed softly. You unplugged a microphone, followed me to 3 photography exhibitions, and kissed me in front of our entire class. I thought I should finally be clear. She stood. You waited until now? I'm painfully slow. You wrote it yourself. That was not permission. I smiled. Then she caught my gown again, the same way she had in the gym. You're doing that a lot today. It works. She kissed me before I could say anything else. This kiss was quieter. No cheering. No phones. No classmates watching. Just Evelyn, one hand gripping my gown, the other resting against my cheek. When we pulled apart, she kept her forehead against mine. You are not allowed to disappear when I leave for Boston. I won't. You have to answer my calls. I will. And visit during fall break. I was planning to. Her eyes narrowed. You were? Yes. Before or after reading the letter? Before. That surprised her. I smiled. I applied for the student media internship at your university. Evelyn stepped back. What? It's only 6 weeks in the fall. I didn't know if I'd get it. And? I pulled out my phone and showed her the email I had received that morning. Congratulations. For once, Evelyn had no answer. Then she threw her arms around me. Actually threw them around me. I nearly dropped my phone. You applied without telling me? I wanted it to be a surprise. She pulled back, eyes bright. I hate surprises. No, you don't. I hate most surprises. This one? She looked at the acceptance email again. Then at me. This one is acceptable. I laughed. From the football field, Tessa shouted Evelyn's name. We both turned. Our families were waiting near the parking lot. Evelyn reached for my hand. Ready? For the future? For dinner with both our families. I stopped. That sounds more terrifying. It is. She started pulling me toward the field. I followed. Halfway there, she glanced at the yearbook under my arm. You're keeping that page forever. I was planning to frame it. Owen. What? If you show anyone, I will deny everything. You kissed me in front of the entire class. That was different. How? She squeezed my hand. Because that was for them. I looked at her. And the letter? Her voice softened. That was only for you. By the time we reached our families, everyone was watching us again. But Evelyn didn't let go. And this time, neither did I. At the parking lot, Grant passed us with his parents. He noticed our joined hands and smiled. Did you finally read it? I frowned. You knew? Everyone close to Evelyn knew. I looked at her. She appeared suddenly interested in the sky. Grant laughed. She asked me 3 times if the letter sounded too obvious. It was a full-page confession. I told her that. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Goodbye, Grant. He raised both hands and walked away laughing. I looked at her. You asked him for advice? Once. He said 3 times. He exaggerates. Tessa appeared beside us. It was 5. Evelyn closed her eyes. I laughed so hard she threatened to leave me in the parking lot. She didn't. Instead, she held my hand all the way to dinner. And under the restaurant table, while our parents talked about college plans and summer jobs, she slipped her fingers through mine again, like she needed to make sure I was still there. I squeezed back. Because the truth was, I had spent months believing graduation meant losing her. But Evelyn had already decided otherwise. She had crossed out my goodbye. She had rewritten the ending. And for once, I was smart enough not to argue. The summer after graduation should have felt endless. Instead, it disappeared in pieces. Coffee runs. College paperwork. Family dinners. Long walks along the harbor when neither Evelyn nor I wanted to admit we were counting the days until she left. Sterling Bay was busiest in summer. Tourists filled the boardwalk, fishing boats crowded the marina, and every restaurant near the water seemed to have a line out the door. But no matter where we went, I noticed the same thing. Evelyn always found a way to stay close. She held my hand under restaurant tables. She rested her head on my shoulder during outdoor movies. She started appearing at my house without warning, carrying books she claimed she needed to read somewhere quiet. My mother stopped pretending to be surprised. "She's upstairs," she would tell me before I even asked. Apparently, Evelyn had become part of the house. Theo loved her because she helped him with calculus. My mother loved her because she remembered everyone's favorite dessert. And I loved her because, with me, she stopped trying to look perfect. She wore my old hoodies. She complained when she was tired. She laughed with her mouth full when something was genuinely funny. The Ice Queen everyone knew at school barely existed around me anymore. One evening, 3 weeks before she left for Boston, I found her sitting on the hood of my car outside the photography studio where I worked part-time. "You know, normal people wait inside," I said. She held up 2 milkshakes. "Normal people don't take 40 minutes to close a register." I was helping my manager. "You're always helping someone." She handed me a shake. "Vanilla with cinnamon. My favorite." "You remembered." Her eyebrows lifted. "Are you still surprised by that?" "A little." "Owen." "I'm learning." Slowly. I leaned beside her against the car. For a few minutes, we watched the sky turn orange over the harbor. Then Evelyn became quiet. Not comfortable quiet. The kind of quiet that meant she was thinking too much. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing." "That answer doesn't work anymore." She glanced at me. "Why?" "Because I know you." Her expression softened. Then she looked back toward the water. "My roommate emailed me." "That sounds normal." "She wants to arrive early." "Also normal." She already sent me a list of welcome week events, clubs, and parties. I waited. Evelyn tapped one finger against her cup. Her nervous habit had changed since graduation. She no longer touched her bracelet as often. Now she tapped things. Desks. Cups. My hand. "You're worried about college," I said. "No," she answered too quickly. I smiled. "You're terrible at lying." "I am excellent at lying." You unplugged a microphone and called it a technical problem. That worked. It worked because I was clueless. She almost smiled. Then her expression turned serious again. "What if things change?" There it was. The real question. I set my drink on the hood. "They will." Her eyes moved to mine. That was not comforting. "I mean, they're supposed to change." She looked away. "People say that high school relationships don't survive college. People say a lot of things. They also say distance makes everything harder. It probably will." She stared at me. "You are terrible at reassurance." "I'm trying to be honest." "I would prefer dishonest optimism." I laughed softly. Then I stepped in front of her. "Evelyn." She looked at me. "You're going to meet new people." Her expression tightened slightly. "You'll have harder classes. You'll be busy." "I'll be busy too." "That sounds like you're preparing me for an ending." "I'm not." I took her hand. "I'm saying I don't expect us to stay exactly the same." She stayed silent. "But I do expect us to keep choosing each other." The tension in her face eased. I continued. "That's what you told me, right? Boston is a city. College is a school. Neither one decides who matters. You remember that?" I framed the page. Her eyes widened. "You actually framed it?" "It's above my desk." "Owen, you told me to keep it forever." "I did not tell you to display my emotional breakdown." "It was beautifully written." She covered her face with one hand. I laughed. Then she grabbed my shirt and pulled me closer. "You're annoying." "You love me." "That makes it worse." She kissed me once, quickly. Then again, slower. When she pulled away, she whispered, "I'm still scared." "I know. What if you meet someone here?" I blinked. "Here? Your media program starts next month. There will be girls. I am aware girls attend college." She gave me a cold look. The Ice Queen briefly returned. I tried not to smile. "You think this is funny?" "A little." "It isn't." "Evelyn." "What?" "You kissed me in front of our entire graduating class because I suggested you find someone else." She crossed her arms. "Yes. Do you really think I'm going to forget that because someone in my editing class smiles at me?" Her expression changed. "That is not impossible. It is extremely impossible." She studied my face like she was checking for dishonesty. Finally, she relaxed. Good answer. I've been training. With whom? You. That explains the slow progress. The next week, Evelyn came with me to the college media orientation in Portland. My program was based in the city, but I planned to commute from Sterling Bay for the first semester. It was cheaper, and I had already accepted weekend work at the studio. Evelyn spent the morning pretending she wasn't evaluating every person who spoke to me. I noticed. Of course I noticed. When a girl named Marin complimented one of my photos, Evelyn appeared beside me almost immediately. That won second place, she said. Marin smiled. It's really good. I know. I looked at Evelyn. Her voice was polite. Her face was calm. Her hand had somehow found mine. Marin glanced at our joined fingers and smiled knowingly. Your girlfriend? Evelyn answered before I could. Yes. One word. Clear. Final. When Marin walked away, I looked at her. You're jealous. No, you nearly introduced yourself as my legal guardian. I was being friendly. You held my hand like someone was trying to steal it. Evelyn's cheeks turned pink. I don't know what you're talking about. I raised our joined hands. She immediately let go. I laughed. You're enjoying this too much, she muttered. I'd never seen you jealous before. I wasn't jealous. Marin said my picture was good. It is good. She was being nice. She was being interested. You spoke to her for 12 seconds. That was enough. I stopped walking. Evelyn took 2 more steps before realizing. She turned. What? I smiled. You really like me. Her expression softened. I thought we established that. I know. I just like hearing it. She looked around the crowded campus. Then she walked back, took my face between her hands, and kissed my cheek. Several students noticed. Evelyn did not care. I really like you, she said. Embarrassingly much. My heart did something stupid. Good. Why? Because I really like you too. That sounded less intense. I love you. Better. We spent the rest of the afternoon exploring campus. Evelyn asked questions about my classes, visited the editing lab, and took pictures of me standing beside the building sign even though I complained. At sunset, we sat near the river with paper cups of coffee between us. You belong here, she said. I looked at the city skyline. I think so. You look different. Different how? Excited. I smiled. I am. For a second, worry crossed her face again. But this time she didn't hide it. And you still want Boston? I asked. Yes. Then we're both doing the right thing. She nodded. Even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. A few days later, I helped Evelyn pack. Her room looked exactly like I expected. Books arranged by subject. Clothes folded perfectly. A detailed checklist taped beside her desk. Then I noticed a small wooden box near her suitcase. What's that? She moved too quickly. Nothing. I reached for it. Owen. You sabotaged school equipment to meet me. You have no right to privacy now. That is not how rights work. I opened the box. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Most were mine. Me in the sound booth. Me taking pictures at football games. Me asleep at the library table. Me laughing with Theo outside my house. I stared. Evelyn. She looked deeply embarrassed. I can explain. You have a secret collection of photos of me. It sounds bad when you say it like that. How else should I say it? They are memories. One of these is me carrying a broken speaker. You looked good. I looked at her. She crossed her arms defensively. What? Nothing. You're smiling. I just didn't know the Ice Queen had been secretly taking pictures of me for months. Some were taken by yearbook staff. And the one of me sleeping? She looked away. That one was mine. I laughed. Then I found something underneath the photographs. An old school ID card. Mine. From junior year. How did you get this? You dropped it outside the auditorium. You never gave it back. I planned to. For 2 years? She took it from me. I forgot. You kept my face in a wooden box. It was accidental. Evelyn. She sighed. Fine. Her voice became quieter. I liked having something of yours. The teasing disappeared. I looked at her. She sat on the edge of her bed. I knew I was leaving eventually. She traced one finger over the card. And before graduation, I didn't know if you would ever understand how I felt. So you kept this? She nodded. It was stupid. No, I sat beside her. It was sweet. She made a face. I do not like that word. Adorable? Worse. Romantic? She considered it. Acceptable. I picked up the wooden box. Take it with you. Her eyes lifted. To Boston? Yeah. She smiled faintly. I was planning to. Good. Then I removed the graduation photo of us from my wallet and placed it inside. Her expression softened. What is that for? So the collection has at least one picture where I knew you liked me. She leaned against my shoulder. You were happier before you knew. I was clueless before I knew. You were peaceful. You were secretly stealing my school ID. Details. The day Evelyn left arrived too quickly. Her family's car was packed before sunrise. Tessa complained about getting up early. Dr. Cross checked the luggage 3 times. Celeste cried before they even reached the driveway. Evelyn stood in front of me wearing my gray hoodie. I had given it to her the night before. Or, more accurately, she had taken it and told me I was giving it to her. Call me when you land, I said. I will. And when you get to the dorm. I will. And if your roommate is secretly dangerous, Owen. I've seen documentaries. She almost smiled. Then her eyes filled. That stopped me. Evelyn rarely cried. I had seen her emotional, nervous, angry, but not like this. She stepped forward and pressed her face against my chest. I wrapped my arms around her. I hate this, she whispered. I know. I changed my mind. No, you didn't. I could stay. No, she pulled back. You're supposed to say yes. I'm supposed to remind you why you're going. Her eyes shone. I don't want you to be mature right now. I'm not mature. I wrote find a better guy in your yearbook. That made her laugh through the tears. I wiped one from her cheek. You're going to Boston. She nodded reluctantly. You're going to be brilliant. Another nod. And I'm visiting in October. You already bought the ticket? Yes. Her eyes widened. When? Yesterday. You didn't tell me. I wanted to surprise you. She stared at me for 1 second. Then kissed me hard enough that Tessa shouted, we can all see you. Evelyn ignored her. When she finally stepped back, she reached into her pocket. I have something for you. She handed me a small folded card. What is it? Read it after I leave. That seems cruel. It is necessary. She got into the car. I stood in the driveway while her family pulled away. Evelyn watched me through the rear window until the car disappeared around the corner. Only then did I open the card. Inside, she had written, distance does not mean goodbye. Beneath it was another line. And if you ever write find a better girl, I will fly back and cross it out myself. I laughed alone in the driveway. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. I miss you already. The car had been gone less than a minute. I typed back, good. I was worried Boston might make you forget me. Her reply came immediately. Impossible. Then another message appeared. You're my password now. I stared at it. Me, what does that mean? Evelyn, it means every important account I have requires your birthday. I laughed. Me, that is terrible security. Evelyn, it is excellent loyalty. I looked down the empty street, still holding her note. 3 weeks earlier, I had believed graduation meant losing her. Now she was moving across the country, and somehow I felt more certain than ever. Evelyn Cross wasn't leaving me behind. She was simply making room for me in the future she had once planned alone. And this time, I wasn't going to tell her to find anyone else. The first week without Evelyn was easier than I expected. The second week was not. At first, we treated distance like a challenge we could outsmart. We called every night. She sent pictures of her dorm room, her new campus, and the terrible coffee from the dining hall. I sent photos from the studio, screenshots from editing class, and proof that Theo had stolen half the cookies my mother baked for her care package. We made rules. No pretending to be fine when we weren't. No disappearing during arguments. No letting more than 1 day pass without talking. Evelyn created a shared calendar. Of course she did. It included our class schedules, work hours, planned calls, and the exact date of my October visit. You color-coded our relationship, I told her during a video call. It's efficient. There are 6 categories. 7. What is gray? Possible emergencies. I stared at her. What kind of emergencies? Missed flights. Broken phones. Academic disasters. You plan for academic disasters? I plan for everything. I smiled. She was sitting at her dorm desk wearing my hoodie, her hair pulled into a loose knot. Behind her, fairy lights hung above the bed. Her roommate's side of the room was covered with posters and photos. Evelyn's side looked organized enough for a magazine. Except for one thing. The wooden box of my pictures sat beside her lamp. I could see the lids slightly open. You kept the box on your desk. She glanced at it. It fits there. Not because you miss me? No, I raised an eyebrow. She lasted 3 seconds. Fine. I miss you. How much? Her eyes narrowed. You are becoming dangerously confident. I have evidence. What evidence? You crossed out my yearbook message and kissed me in public. I regret creating this version of you. No, you don't. She looked at me through the screen. Then her expression softened. No, she said quietly. I don't. Those calls made the distance feel manageable. Until life became busy. My program assigned its first major project. Evelyn joined a student policy group, started preparing for a scholarship interview, and somehow became the unofficial problem solver for half her dorm floor. Our nightly calls became shorter, then later, then less certain. One Thursday, I waited until midnight. She didn't call. I sent a message. Still awake? No answer. At 12:37, I tried again. Everything okay? Nothing. I told myself she was studying, or asleep, or her phone had died. All reasonable explanations. But the part of my mind that had written "find a better guy" in her yearbook had never completely disappeared. It whispered that Boston was full of people who matched her world better than I did. People who understood policy debates. People with carefully planned futures. People who didn't work weekends at a photography studio and commute from a coastal town. At 1 in the morning, I stopped waiting. The next morning, Evelyn finally replied. I'm sorry. Scholarship meeting ran late, then my phone died. I read it twice. The explanation made sense. Still, I felt something heavy settle in my chest. It's okay. Her reply came immediately. It doesn't sound okay. I stared at the screen. She still knew, even through text. I was just worried. Evelyn, I should have borrowed someone's phone. You didn't know it would die. A pause. Then, Evelyn, call me after class. Please. I did. The moment her face appeared, I could tell she hadn't slept much. You look tired, I said. So do you. I waited up. Her expression changed. I know. Silence stretched between us. Not the comfortable kind. The dangerous kind. Evelyn touched the bracelet on her wrist. She had started wearing it again. I'm sorry, she said. It's fine. Owen. What? Don't do that. Do what? Say something is fine when it isn't. I leaned back in my chair. What do you want me to say? The truth. I almost laughed. She always demanded the truth. Even when it was embarrassing. Especially then. I thought maybe you forgot. Her face became still. Forgot what? Us. The words sounded worse out loud. More childish. More insecure. Evelyn stared at me. Then she closed her eyes briefly. Owen. I know. It was one missed call. No, her voice softened. That's not what I mean. She looked directly into the camera. You still think distance gives me a reason to change my mind? I didn't answer. Again, silence answered for me. She exhaled slowly. Do you know where I was last night? The scholarship meeting. Yes. She reached for something beside her laptop. A folder. Then she held up a page. At the top was the name of a student exchange grant. What is that? I asked. A travel scholarship. For where? Portland. I blinked. She continued. It funds a 6-week summer policy internship. I applied because your program offers summer production work in the same city. I stared at her. You applied for an internship near me? Yes. When? 2 weeks ago. You didn't tell me. I wanted to surprise you. That phrase again. The phrase we both used when we were afraid to hope too loudly. Evelyn lowered the paper. I wasn't ignoring our future, Owen. Her voice trembled slightly. I was trying to build one. The guilt arrived immediately. I'm sorry. No, she shook her head. You were scared. So were you. Yes. The answer came without hesitation. I was terrified when my phone turned off. Why? Because I knew you would wait. She looked down. And I knew exactly what you would start believing. I stayed quiet. She knew the worst parts of me now. The parts that expected abandonment before it happened. And she still stayed. I don't need perfect communication, I said. Her eyes lifted. I just need to know when something changes. I can do that. And I need to stop deciding one missed call means you found someone better. Yes. A tiny smile appeared. That would be helpful. I smiled too. Was that an Ice Queen joke? It was criticism. Sounded affectionate. It wasn't. You're wearing my hoodie. Her eyes narrowed. This conversation is over. It clearly isn't. She tried not to laugh. Failed. The tension broke. That night, we created a new rule. No pretending fear was logic. Evelyn typed it into our shared calendar. She even gave it a color. Red. Why red? I asked. Because it's important. More important than academic disasters? Much more. A week later, another problem arrived. This time, it had a name. Julian Wren. I first heard about him during a Sunday call. Evelyn was telling me about a policy presentation when she said, Julian thinks our argument needs stronger economic evidence. I paused. Who's Julian? A student in my group. What kind of student? She frowned. A human one. You know what I mean. No, I don't. I tried to sound casual. Failed. Evelyn noticed instantly. You're jealous. I'm gathering information. He's from Connecticut. That is not relevant. He wears glasses. Also not relevant. He has a girlfriend. I relaxed before I could stop myself. Evelyn's mouth curved. You were jealous. No, you absolutely were. I was curious. You asked what kind of human he was. That was a normal question. She leaned closer to the camera. You're cute when you're jealous. I stared. Did you just call me cute? No, you did. I said nothing. You said it clearly. She looked away. Even from 3,000 miles away, I could still make the Ice Queen blush. That felt like an achievement. Then she became serious. You know there will be people here, right? I know. Guys. I know. Some of them will talk to me. I'm aware. And there will be girls in your program. I nodded. We can't treat every new person like a threat. I know. But, I smiled slightly. But if Julian becomes too friendly, remind him you once publicly attacked a yearbook message. She laughed. I didn't attack it. You used permanent marker. It was necessary. 2 weeks before my planned visit, my internship was unexpectedly moved. The program needed students to assist with a regional film festival during the exact weekend I was supposed to fly to Boston. I stared at the email for almost an hour. There was no alternative date. No way to leave early. It was the first real opportunity my instructors had offered me. And it meant canceling on Evelyn. I called her immediately. She answered from the library. The moment she saw my face, she gathered her books. What happened? My visit. Her expression tightened. What about it? I explained. The festival. The schedule. The internship credit. When I finished, Evelyn stayed quiet. Too quiet. You should do it, she said. The words sounded familiar. The same words she had used when telling me to accept my college opportunity. You're disappointed. No, Evelyn. She looked away. Yes. The honesty hurt more than anger would have. I've been counting the days. I know. I changed my schedule. I know. I bought tickets for an exhibit you wanted to see. My chest tightened. I'm sorry. She closed her eyes. I know this matters. It does. And I don't want you to give it up. But, she looked back at me. But understanding doesn't make it hurt less. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was no villain. No betrayal. Just life becoming complicated. The exact thing we had promised to face. I'll come the next weekend, I said. I have midterms. The one after? Your studio has the fall portrait event. I rubbed a hand over my face. For the first time, the distance felt real. Not romantic. Not temporary. Real. Evelyn's eyes shone, but she refused to look away. What do we do? She asked. It was the first time I had ever heard uncertainty in her voice without a hidden plan behind it. I didn't have one either. Then I remembered the yearbook. The crossed out goodbye. The way she had refused to let me decide our ending alone. We stopped trying to solve the entire year tonight, I said. She stayed quiet. We get through this week. And after that? The next one. Her expression softened slightly. That sounds inefficient. It's terrible planning. You know I hate terrible planning. I know. A pause. Then she smiled sadly. But maybe we don't need a perfect plan. I leaned closer to the screen. We just need to keep choosing each other. Evelyn looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. 1 week at a time. 1 week at a time. The call ended with both of us pretending we felt better. We didn't. But the next morning, I received a package at the studio. Inside was Evelyn's yearbook. Open to the page where she had crossed out my message. A yellow note was attached beneath it. You are not allowed to turn one canceled visit into a goodbye. Under that, she had added, I'm still choosing you. I stood behind the studio counter, smiling like an idiot. Then my manager, Petra Lawson, walked past and looked at the page. Girlfriend? Yeah. She seems intense. She is. Good intense? I looked at Evelyn's handwriting. at the black lines through every word where I had tried to let her go. The best kind. That evening, I called her. She answered immediately. You sent your yearbook across the country. Yes. That seems risky. I insured it. Of course you did. Did you read the note? 3 times. Good. I miss you. Her expression softened. I miss you too. Then she held up an envelope. What's that? My flight confirmation. I stared. You're what? She smiled. Not her polite smile. Not the Ice Queen smile. The one she saved for me. If you can't come to Boston, she paused. Then I'm coming to you. For once, I was the one who couldn't speak. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You're painfully slow again. You booked a flight? Yes. For the film festival weekend? Yes. What about your classes? I planned ahead. Your scholarship interview? Moved. Your roommate? Delighted to have the room alone. I laughed. You did all that? She looked at me like the answer was obvious. Owen. Yeah. I crossed out goodbye once. Her smile softened. I'm not letting distance write it back in. Evelyn arrived in Portland on Friday afternoon wearing my gray hoodie and carrying a suitcase that looked far too organized for a 3-day trip. I was waiting near the airport exit with a camera bag over one shoulder and a cardboard sign that said, Boston's most terrifying freshman. She stopped the moment she saw it. Then she looked at me. Slowly. Owen. I smiled. Welcome to Oregon. You made a sign. I wanted you to find me. My name would have worked. This had more personality. She walked toward me with the exact expression she used when someone made a terrible suggestion during student council meetings. Then she dropped the handle of her suitcase and hugged me. Hard. The sign bent between us. I didn't care. For weeks, Evelyn had existed inside my phone screen. Her voice came through headphones. Her smile arrived in pixels. I had almost forgotten how it felt to hold her. She buried her face against my neck. You're real, she whispered. I tightened my arms around her. So are you. She pulled back just enough to look at me. You look tired. You flew across the country and that's your first observation? My first observation was that you made an embarrassing sign. Second observation, then. You look tired. I laughed. The festival has been intense. And you've been forgetting meals. That is an accusation. It is a fact. She reached into her tote bag and handed me a wrapped sandwich. I stared at it. You brought food from Boston? I bought it after landing. You found a CAF before finding me? I knew you would need lunch. It was impossible not to smile. You missed me. Her eyes narrowed. I booked a 6-hour flight. That sounds like yes. It sounds like poor judgment. Then she kissed me in the middle of the airport. Not dramatically. Not for an audience. Just one warm, certain kiss that erased every missed call and canceled plan between us. When she pulled away, she took the sign from my hands and folded it. You're keeping that? I asked. As evidence. Of what? That loving you has damaged my dignity. I picked up her suitcase. You crossed that line when you unplugged the microphone. That information remains confidential. Half our class knows. They cannot prove it. The film festival occupied 3 historic theaters downtown. My job was mostly carrying equipment, checking media files, and solving technical problems before anyone important noticed they existed. Evelyn insisted on coming with me that evening. You'll be bored, I warned. I attended 3 photography exhibitions before we were dating. You were secretly in love with me. I remain secretly in love with you. That isn't a secret. It should be. She sat in the back row while I helped prepare the opening screening. At first, I worried she would feel ignored. The staff moved quickly. My supervisor, Petra, gave instructions every 30 seconds. Volunteers rushed through the aisles carrying cables and programs. But every time I looked toward Evelyn, she was watching me. Not impatiently. Proudly. When the projector refused to recognize the final file, Petra called my name. I fixed the issue with 2 minutes left before the audience entered. As the screen came alive, Petra slapped my shoulder. You saved us. I changed one setting. You saved us by changing one setting. From the back row, Evelyn smiled. I knew that smile. It meant she had just added another moment to the private collection she kept in her mind. After the screening began, I slipped into the empty seat beside her. You were good, she whispered. I pressed 4 buttons. You knew which 4. Is that your official review? Yes. She reached for my hand in the darkness. For the next 90 minutes, we watched the film with our shoulders touching. It was the most normal thing we had done in months. And somehow, it felt more romantic than the airport kiss. Afterward, Petra invited the crew to a late dinner at a restaurant across the street. Evelyn joined us. I introduced her to the other interns, including Marin, who smiled immediately. So this is the girlfriend. Evelyn sat beside me. You've heard about me? Marin laughed. Only that you're brilliant, terrifying, and willing to cross out bad decisions with permanent marker. I looked at Petra. You told them? Petra shrugged. It's a good story. Evelyn looked at me. You shared the yearbook incident with your supervisor? She saw the page. Why did she see the page? It was mailed to the studio. Marin leaned closer. For what it's worth, I support your correction. Evelyn considered her. I like her. I blinked. That was fast. She has good judgment. There was no jealousy this time. No tension. Evelyn rested her hand on my knee beneath the table, and I realized something had changed. Distance had made us afraid of strangers because strangers represented possibilities. But now she was here, sitting beside me, seeing the life I was building. And instead of feeling threatened by it, she was making herself part of it. After dinner, we walked back to the small hotel near the festival venue where her family had helped her reserve a room. The city streets were wet from an earlier rain. Theater signs glowed above us. Cars passed slowly through reflections of red and gold. Evelyn held my hand inside the pocket of my jacket because hers were cold. You like it here, she said. The city? The work. I nodded. Yeah. I could tell. How? You forget to check the time. That's your standard? You only forget the time when you're completely focused. I looked at her. You really do notice everything. Almost everything. What do you miss? She was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I miss when you're scared. I stopped walking. She took another step before turning back. What? You usually notice. Usually. She studied my face. But? I looked toward the theater behind us. I was scared you would come here and realize my life was too ordinary. Evelyn stared at me. Ordinary? I work in a small studio. I carry equipment. I fix files. You're studying policy at one of the best universities in the country. Her expression became familiar. That particular mix of frustration and hurt. Owen. I know how it sounds. Do you? She stepped closer. I just watched an entire theater wait for you to solve a problem nobody else understood. It was a setting. I don't care if it was a loose cable. Her voice sharpened. You mattered in that room. I stayed silent. And even if you had spent the whole night carrying boxes, you would still matter to me. The rain began again, barely more than mist. Evelyn didn't move. You keep measuring your life against mine like one of us has to be more impressive. I'm trying not to. Try harder. I almost smiled. She caught it. This is not funny. No, it is exhausting. I know. She took my face between her hands. You do not need to build a more impressive life before I'm allowed to love you. The words settled somewhere deep. She continued, softer now. I didn't fly here to evaluate your future. Why did you come? Because I miss my boyfriend. My chest tightened. And because he has a terrible habit of turning disappointment into goodbye. That only happened once. You wrote it in permanent ink. You crossed it out. I will continue crossing it out as needed. I placed my hands over hers. What if I stop writing it? Her eyes softened. Then maybe I can finally use the pen for something else. Like what? She smiled slightly. Planning visits. The next day, Evelyn came to the festival again. She helped Petra organize guest passes when 2 volunteers failed to appear. She corrected a scheduling error no one else had noticed. By noon, half the staff trusted her. Petra watched Evelyn rearrange the check-in table. You know, she told me, your girlfriend is frighteningly competent. I know. She also threatened a delivery company. They were late. They arrived 7 minutes later. That sounds effective. During the afternoon break, Evelyn found me backstage reviewing footage. She handed me coffee. Accidental extra order? I asked. No, she sat beside me. I'm done pretending. With coffee? With everything. I looked at her. She opened her phone and showed me a new version of our shared calendar. Several weekends were marked. Thanksgiving in Sterling Bay. My Boston visit after midterms. Her possible summer internship. Winter break. You planned 6 months. Only the important parts. Is there still a category for possible emergencies? Yes. What color? Gray. And us? She looked at me. Red. I smiled. Because we're important? Because we require attention. That sounds less romantic. It is more accurate. I leaned closer. I missed you. Her expression softened instantly. I missed you too. How much? She looked around the empty backstage hallway. Then she grabbed my festival badge, pulled me forward, and kissed me. When she released me, the badge hung sideways. "That much," she said. On Sunday morning, we drove to Sterling Bay before her evening flight. My mother made breakfast. Theo demanded stories about Boston. Evelyn sat at our kitchen table like she had never left. Later, she and I walked to the harbor. The wind was cold, and the tourist crowds had thinned. We stopped near the railing where fishing boats moved slowly through the water. "I hate leading again," she said. "I know. This weekend was too short." "I know." She looked at me. "You're supposed to say something more helpful." I thought about it. "For weeks until Thanksgiving." She nodded. 28 days. "You counted?" "I have a calendar." "Right." She reached into her coat and handed me a small photograph. It was one she had taken during the festival. I was standing in the projection booth, looking toward the screen. On the back she had written, "You belong in every future you choose. I just hope you keep choosing one that includes me." I read it twice. Then I placed it carefully inside my wallet. "I will." She looked at me. "You promise?" "Yes." "No disappearing?" "No disappearing." "No deciding what's best for me without asking?" "I promise." She held out her hand. "Then say it properly." I took it. "I choose you, Evelyn." Her eyes brightened. "Even from 3,000 miles away?" "Especially then." She stepped onto her toes and kissed me beneath the gray Oregon sky. There was no crowd this time. No classmates. No graduation gowns. Just the harbor, the wind, and the girl who had crossed the country to prove one canceled visit could not become an ending. When we separated, she rested her forehead against mine. "1 week at a time?" she asked. "1 week at a time." She smiled. Then added, "But I already planned 6 months." I laughed. "Of course you did." And for the first time since she left for Boston, distance no longer felt like something pulling us apart. It felt like space we were learning to cross together. Thanksgiving came with rain, crowded airports, and Evelyn standing in my mother's kitchen at 6 in the morning, arguing with a pie crust. "You're pressing too hard," my mother told her. "I'm following the instructions." Baking doesn't care about instructions. Evelyn looked personally offended by that idea. I leaned against the doorway, watching her wear one of my old sweatshirts beneath an apron that said "Kiss the Cook." "You're smiling," she said without turning. "How did you know?" "I can feel you being annoying." My mother laughed. Evelyn had been home for less than 12 hours, and the house already felt fuller. She had hugged my mother, brought Theo a university sweatshirt, and reorganized our refrigerator because apparently we had been storing vegetables irresponsibly. Distance hadn't changed her. It had simply made every familiar part of her feel more precious. That evening, after dinner, we walked to the harbor. Sterling Bay's holiday lights had been switched on along the boardwalk. White bulbs wrapped around the railings, and a glowing tree stood near the marina. Evelyn held my arm as we walked. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm happy." That is suspiciously simple. I miss simple. She leaned against me. So did I. We stopped near the water. For a moment, I thought about telling her how hard the last months had been. The missed calls. The canceled plans. The constant fear that distance would eventually become easier for her than choosing me. But she already knew. And this time, I didn't need fear to become a speech. I simply took her hand. She squeezed mine. That was enough. 2 weeks later, I finally visited Boston. Evelyn met me outside the airport wearing a dark green coat, her hair loose beneath a knitted hat. She walked quickly at first. Then she ran. The Ice Queen actually ran through an airport and threw her arms around me. Several people stared. Evelyn did not care. "You're here," she whispered. "I said I would come." "I know." "Then why do you sound surprised?" "Because waiting makes everything feel impossible." I held her tighter. "Still think I'm real?" She pulled back and touched my face. Barely. Her campus was exactly what I expected from her world. Old brick buildings. Huge libraries. Students who seemed to discuss international law while ordering coffee. Evelyn belonged there. That should have frightened me. Instead, watching her lead me through the courtyard, greeting classmates and pointing out her favorite places, made me proud. Then we reached the Policy Society's winter reception. That was where the fear returned. Everyone looked polished. Students wore jackets and dresses instead of hoodies. Professors moved through the room while conversations about internships, campaigns, and graduate programs filled the air. I suddenly felt very aware of my borrowed blazer. Evelyn noticed. Her fingers slipped into mine. "Don't." I looked at her. "Don't what?" Decide you don't belong before anyone says a word. I wasn't. You were. She squeezed my hand. You belong beside me. Then she led me inside. For the first hour, things went well. Evelyn introduced me as her boyfriend without hesitation. Not her friend from Oregon. Not someone from high school. Her boyfriend. She told people about my film festival work and the photography project I was developing. Whenever I tried to minimize it, she corrected me. He didn't just assist, she told one professor. He solved 3 projection failures and helped produce the closing reel. I leaned closer afterward. You make me sound impressive. You are impressive. You're biased. Yes. She said it without embarrassment. Then Julian Wren appeared. He was tall, confident, and exactly the kind of person I had imagined when Evelyn first mentioned him. He shook my hand politely. So you're Owen. That sounds like you've heard stories. I've heard many stories. I looked at Evelyn. She suddenly found the drink table fascinating. Julian smiled. Mostly about your photography. Mostly? And one story involving a yearbook. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Julian. He laughed. I support your editing choices. I relaxed slightly. Then a professor called Evelyn over to meet a visiting program director. Julian and I stayed near the window. She talks about you a lot, he said. Apparently. No. You don't understand. His expression became serious. When she first arrived, everyone thought she didn't like anyone. That sounds familiar. Then someone asked why she never attended Friday events. I waited. She said Friday night was reserved. For what? Calling you. My chest tightened. Julian continued. She turned down a competitive weekend program because it conflicted with your first visit. I looked across the room. Evelyn was speaking to the program director, calm and confident. She had never told me that. She didn't want you to feel guilty, Julian said. Why are you telling me? Because you've spent the whole evening looking like you're waiting for someone to prove you don't fit here. I looked at him. He shrugged. She watches the door every Friday until your call comes. Then he walked away. Before I could process that, I heard the visiting director speak to Evelyn. We would love to consider you for the spring fellowship. There is one issue. What issue? She asked. The schedule includes weekend travel. Participants must remain available most Fridays and Saturdays. The old version of me would have panicked. He would have imagined Evelyn choosing the fellowship and slowly forgetting every promise. But I remembered our rule. No pretending fear was logic. So I stayed quiet. The director continued. It would be an exceptional opportunity. Evelyn glanced across the room. At me. Then she said, May I have until Monday to decide? Of course. When the director left, Evelyn came straight toward me. You heard. Yes. You're worried. A little. She took my hand. Tell me the truth. I don't want you to lose an opportunity because of me. I knew you would say that. But I also don't want to pretend I wouldn't miss you. Her expression softened. That's better. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. For once, she had no plan. And for once, I didn't try to create an ending for her. I'll support you, I said. Even if it changes our schedule? Yes. Even if it's difficult? Yes. She looked at me for a long moment. Then the host tapped a glass and asked everyone to gather for a group photograph. Students began arranging themselves beneath the university banner. The director called Evelyn toward the front beside the fellowship candidates. I started stepping back. Evelyn caught my wrist. Where are you going? Out of the picture. Why? This is your program. She looked at the photographer, then at the crowd. Then she pulled me beside her. He stays. The photographer smiled. Of course. One student joked, Evelyn, you're putting your Oregon boyfriend in the official photo? Evelyn's expression became perfectly calm. The Ice Queen expression. Yes. The student laughed awkwardly. I was kidding. I'm not. She wrapped her arm through mine. He is part of my life. I'm not cropping him out because it makes the picture easier to explain. The room went quiet. Then Julian started clapping slowly. A few others laughed and joined him. My face heated. Evelyn ignored everyone. She looked at me. Still trying to step out of my future? I shook my head. No good. The camera flashed. And for once, I didn't stand behind the person everyone noticed. I stood beside her. Exactly where she wanted me. Later, outside beneath falling snow, Evelyn rested her head against my shoulder. What will you do about the fellowship? I asked. I'll negotiate. You can do that? I can try. And if they refuse? She looked at me. Then we decide together. Together. Not sacrifice. Not goodbye. Together. She reached into her coat and handed me a printed copy of the reception photo. I laughed. That was fast. I asked for one. On the back, she had already written, "Stop stepping out of pictures that belong to both of us." I looked at her. "You brought a pen?" "I always carry one." "Permanent marker?" She smiled. "Just in case you write something stupid again." Then she kissed me beneath the lights while snow settled on her hair. Boston no longer felt like the place that had taken Evelyn away. It was simply another place where she chose me. Evelyn did negotiate. Of course she did. She spent the entire weekend reading the fellowship requirements, highlighting every flexible clause, and drafting 3 versions of an email to the program director. I watched from the chair beside her dorm room window while she deleted the same sentence for the 4th time. "You know, normal people just send emails," I said. "Normal people lose leverage. You're asking for 2 free weekends a month. I'm presenting a reasonable scheduling alternative." You color-coded the supporting evidence. That makes it easier to understand. Her roommate, Nora Ellis, looked up from her bed. "She has been doing this since 6 this morning." Evelyn glanced at the clock. "It is only 9. Nora looked at me. "Please take her outside." I tried. "He suggested breakfast," Evelyn said. It was a good suggestion. It was inefficient. Nora pointed toward the door. "Go! Both of you." Evelyn frowned. "This is my room. And yet I'm still asking you to leave." 10 minutes later, we were walking across campus with coffee and warm pastries. Snow covered the edges of the brick paths. Students hurried between buildings with scarves pulled over their faces. Evelyn held her cup with both hands. "You think I'm being unreasonable." "No, you made a face." "I make many faces. This one was specific." I smiled. "I think you're trying to solve every possible problem before it exists. That is called planning. It's also called being afraid." She stopped walking. I immediately regretted how direct that sounded. But Evelyn didn't become angry. She looked down at her coffee. "What do you think I'm afraid of?" "That if you accept the fellowship, we'll have less time." "That is true. And if you reject it, you'll worry you gave up too much for us." She stayed quiet. I stepped closer. "So you're trying to design an option where nothing hurts." Her eyes lifted to mine. "Is that wrong?" "No," I took her free hand. "But maybe there isn't one." The old Evelyn would have hated that answer. The girl who made schedules, backup plans, and emergency categories needed problems to have solutions. But love wasn't an equation. Distance wasn't a mistake she could correct with permanent marker. Some choices had costs. The important part was deciding which costs we were willing to carry together. "I don't want to lose Friday nights," she said quietly. "You won't lose all of them." "I might lose most." "Then we call on Thursdays." "That is not the same." "No," I smiled faintly. "But different doesn't automatically mean worse." She studied me. "When did you become the calm one?" "I'm not calm." "You sound calm." "I'm terrified." That surprised her. "Of what?" "That you'll accept it and your life will become bigger." Her expression tightened. "And you'll realize you don't need me." "Owen." "I know it isn't logical." "No," she moved closer. "But it is honest." I nodded. She set her coffee on the low stone wall and took both my hands. "My life becoming bigger does not make your place in it smaller." I looked at her. She continued, "And your life becoming bigger does not threaten me either." Marin disagrees. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "This is not the time." I laughed. She tried not to. Failed. Then she rested her forehead against mine. "We really are bad at this." "At what?" "Being apart. We're getting better. Slowly. That seems to be my theme." She smiled. Then she said, "I'm accepting the fellowship if they approve the scheduling request." My chest tightened slightly. But I nodded. "And if they don't?" "I'll still accept it." I looked at her. She watched my face carefully. "I don't want to resent you later," she said. "And I don't want you to resent yourself for encouraging me to stay smaller." "I wouldn't." "You might." She squeezed my hands. "But I also don't want you to think this means I'm choosing the fellowship over you." I took a breath. "I don't." "Really?" "Really." Her expression softened with relief. "We'll make it work," I said. "How?" "I have no idea." She stared. Then she laughed. A real laugh. The sound carried across the snowy courtyard. "That is the least reassuring answer possible. But it's true." "Yes." She leaned closer and kissed me once. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." Again. Always together. By Monday, the program director approved 1 free weekend each month and allowed Evelyn to attend 1 Friday meeting remotely. It wasn't the perfect arrangement she wanted, but it was enough. She accepted. Then she called me before telling anyone else. I got it, she said. Her voice shook with excitement. I was standing in the editing lab between two monitors. For 1 second, pride hit me so strongly I forgot every fear I had carried. You got it. Yes. I knew you would. You said the selection was competitive. I knew they would choose you anyway. She smiled through the screen. That is not how selection works. It is how loyalty works. Her eyes softened. You remembered. Everything. She looked down. Then she whispered, I wish you were here. Me too. The happiness in her face didn't disappear, but it became quieter. This was what distance did. It allowed joy and sadness to exist in the same moment. I'm proud of you, I said. You mean it? Completely. She nodded. Then her expression became serious. Owen. Yeah? Thank you for not asking me to turn it down. I knew what she meant. Thank you for not making love smaller than ambition. Thank you for not asking me to prove myself through sacrifice. Thank you for staying even when staying became inconvenient. I love you, I said. She smiled. I love you too. Then she added, more than the fellowship. You don't have to compare them. I know. A pause. But I wanted you to hear it. Spring arrived slowly. Evelyn's schedule became brutal. Some weeks, our calls lasted 15 minutes. Some nights, she fell asleep while I edited footage and I left the call running just to hear her breathe. I became busier too. Petra recommended me for a paid documentary project about coastal businesses. It meant early mornings, long drives, and weekends spent filming fishermen, shop owners, and families who had lived in Sterling Bay for generations. For the first time, I was creating something that felt entirely mine. Evelyn watched rough cuts whenever she could. She gave honest feedback. Sometimes too honest. The transition at 2 minutes is distracting, she said one night. I like that transition. It looks like a student project. It is a student project. You want it to look better than one. I sighed. Anything else? The interview with the bakery owner is excellent. That sounded painful for you to admit. I am capable of compliments. Rarely. I compliment you constantly. You criticize me affectionately. That still counts. She was right about the transition. I changed it. The documentary was selected for a regional student showcase in Portland. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. My first instinct was to call Evelyn. Then I remembered she was traveling with the fellowship group. I sent a message instead. My documentary got selected. I expected a reply that evening. Instead, 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Evelyn was standing outside a train station, wind pushing her hair across her face. You got selected? I smiled. Yeah. I knew it. You didn't even see the final cut. I didn't need to. That is still not how judging works. It is still how loyalty works. I laughed. Then she became serious. When is the showcase? I told her the date. Her expression changed. What? That's the fellowship's final conference. My excitement dimmed. In Boston? Yes. We both went quiet. For months, we had managed missed calls, changed weekends, and impossible schedules. But this felt different. 2 important moments. Same day. Opposite sides of the country. I'm sorry, she said. You didn't schedule it. I wanted to be there. I know. She looked frustrated. I could ask to leave early. No, Owen. No, I shook my head. This conference matters. So does your showcase. I know. Then why are you deciding which one matters more? I stopped. She had caught me doing it again. Trying to protect her from choosing. Trying to remove myself before I became inconvenient. I'm sorry, I said. She exhaled. So am I. What do we do? For a moment, neither of us had an answer. Then Evelyn looked toward the train platform. We stopped trying to attend every important moment physically. I listened. We record them. You want me to film the showcase? You are literally a filmmaker. That seems obvious now. And I'll record my presentation. I smiled. Then we watched together afterward. Same night. Even with the time difference? Especially with the time difference. It wasn't perfect. But perfect had never been what kept us together. Choosing did. On the day of the showcase, I stood backstage in Portland wearing the same blazer I had worn in Boston. My mother sat in the audience with Theo and Petra. One seat beside them was empty, reserved for Evelyn. I had placed a printed photograph on it, the one from the policy reception. On the back, she had written, "Stop stepping out of pictures that belong to both of us." 3,000 miles away, Evelyn stood at a conference podium. Before my film began, my phone buzzed. Evelyn, I'm about to present. Me, I'm about to screen. Then, Evelyn, I'm proud of you. I typed, me, I'm proud of you too. A final message appeared. Evelyn, look at the empty seat. I turned. For 1 second, I imagined her there. Dark hair, calm expression, that private smile she saved for me. Then I saw something taped beneath the chair. An envelope. I walked over and opened it. Inside was a note she had mailed to Petra days earlier. I may not be sitting here, but I am still choosing this moment with you. At the bottom, she had drawn one black line through a single word, alone. I laughed softly. Then the theater lights dimmed. My documentary began. And for the first time, Evelyn wasn't physically beside me during something important. But I didn't feel abandoned. I felt loved. Afterward, my film won the audience award. That same night, Evelyn's presentation received the fellowship's top evaluation. We called each other at midnight my time and 3 in the morning hers. She was sitting on the floor of her hotel room in formal clothes, holding a certificate. I held up my award. We did it, she said. We did. Separately. Together. Her smile softened. Then she lifted a black marker. What is that for? In case you say something stupid. I wasn't planning to. Good. She looked at me through the screen. Because I have one more thing to tell you. What? The summer internship in Portland accepted me. I stared. For a moment, every word disappeared. You're coming here? 6 weeks. When? June. You already knew? Since yesterday. And you waited? I wanted to tell you after our presentations. I laughed. You're impossible. You love me. I do. Her eyes brightened. Good. Then she held up the marker and smiled. Because this summer, I'm crossing out distance. June arrived with blue skies, crowded trains, and Evelyn stepping onto the platform in Portland with one suitcase, one laptop bag, and the expression of someone who had already reorganized the next 6 weeks in her head. I saw her before she saw me. She was standing near the doors, scanning the crowd. Then her eyes found mine. Everything about her changed. The careful posture relaxed. The serious expression disappeared. And the girl everyone once called the Ice Queen smiled like she had finally reached home. I walked toward her. She dropped the handle of her suitcase. Then she ran. Again. You're developing a habit, I said as she wrapped her arms around me. What habit? Running through stations. You're usually standing too far away. You could wave. That is inefficient. I laughed and held her tighter. 6 months ago, distance had felt like a test we might fail. Now she was here. Not for one weekend. Not for one rush visit. 6 full weeks. When she pulled back, she looked at my face carefully. You cut your hair. 3 weeks ago. You didn't tell me. You saw me on video. The camera quality was poor. You criticized my equipment. I criticized your lighting. I took her suitcase. Welcome back. Her expression softened. I missed hearing you say that. Evelyn's internship office was only 15 minutes from my studio. She had found a small summer apartment near the river, but by the end of the first week, half her books were at my house, 2 of my hoodies were in her closet, and my mother had added Evelyn's favorite cereal to the grocery list. It felt strangely natural. We met for lunch between work hours. She reviewed policy reports while I edited footage. In the evenings, we walked through the city or sat in the studio after closing, sharing takeout while I showed her unfinished projects. For the first time, we weren't trying to fit our relationship inside brief calls and carefully scheduled weekends. We had ordinary days. And ordinary days with Evelyn were better than every dramatic moment I had imagined. One Tuesday, she arrived at the studio carrying 2 coffees. You ordered mine correctly, I said. I always do. Not accidentally? I retired that strategy. Good. It lacked credibility. She placed a folder beside my keyboard. What's that? My internship proposal. You want feedback? Yes. That is dangerous. You criticize my work less brutally than I criticize yours. That is true. I read the proposal while she watched me. Halfway through, I noticed something in the final section. A recommendation for expanding public media partnerships in coastal communities, including Sterling Bay. I looked up. You included my hometown. It fits the program. Evelyn. What? You built part of your internship project around my documentary. She looked away. It was relevant research. I smiled. You're proud of me. That is not new information. I still like hearing it. Her cheeks turned slightly pink. Then she reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. I am very proud of you. The words landed differently now. Not because I doubted her, because I finally believed them. Near the end of the internship, my program held a summer exhibition. This time, Evelyn was not 3,000 miles away. She stood beside my mother, Theo, Petra, and half the studio staff while my new short film played on the theater screen. The film was about distance. Not romantic distance. Distance between parents and children. Between people and hometowns. Between the lives we planned and the lives we actually built. I had interviewed families across Oregon, but hidden inside the film was one small detail meant only for Evelyn. Near the end, the camera moved across a desk. For less than 2 seconds, the framed yearbook page appeared in the background. The black lines through my message. The sentence she had written beneath it. I already found him. He's just painfully slow. Evelyn saw it. I knew because she covered her mouth. After the film ended, the audience applauded. I walked onto the stage for questions. The moderator asked about the meaning behind the final shot. I looked toward Evelyn. She was already watching me. The film is about people who mistake change for loss, I said. The room became quiet. Sometimes we assume distance means someone is leaving us behind. I paused. But the right people don't ask you to stay small so they can keep you close. Evelyn's eyes brightened. They make space for you in the future they're building. The audience applauded again. But I barely heard it, because Evelyn looked at me the way she had on graduation day. Like everyone else had disappeared. After the exhibition, she found me backstage. You put my yearbook page in your film. 2 seconds. Thousands of people will see it. They won't know it's yours. I know it's mine. That was the point. She crossed her arms, pretending to be annoyed. But her eyes were shining. You're becoming dramatic. You started it. I wrote one sentence. You kissed me in front of our entire class. You deserved it. I agree. She stared at me, then laughed and threw her arms around my neck. I loved the film. Even the transition at 4 minutes? It was acceptable. High praise. She pulled back. Then she reached into her bag. I have something for you. Another note? Yes. You really like paper. Paper is permanent. That sounds dangerous. It is. She handed me a folded page. At the top, she had written, 5-year plan. I looked at her. You made a relationship plan? It is not a relationship plan. I opened it. There were only 4 lines. Finish college. Build work we are proud of. Keep choosing each other. Stop assuming love has to limit either of us. At the bottom, she had added, everything else can change. I read it twice. Then smiled. This is less detailed than your usual plans. I'm learning flexibility. I'm impressed. Don't exaggerate. I folded the page carefully and placed it in my wallet beside the photo from the film festival. You're keeping it there? Yes. What if you lose your wallet? I have copies. Her expression softened. Of course you do. On Evelyn's final night in Portland, we returned to Sterling Bay. The harbor lights reflected across the water. Summer tourists moved along the boardwalk, and music drifted from a restaurant near the marina. We stopped at the same railing where we had promised to take distance 1 week at a time. Evelyn leaned against me. 6 weeks went too quickly, she said. I know. I hate leaving. I know. You need a new response. I could tell you not to go. She lifted her head. But you won't. Know why? Because I love the person you're becoming. Her expression softened. And I love the person you're becoming. I smiled. That was suspiciously easy. I prepared it. Of course. She reached into her coat pocket. Then she pulled out a black marker. I laughed. You brought that to the harbor? I keep it for emergencies. What emergency? She took my hand and wrote one small word across the inside of my wrist. Chosen. I stared at it. What is this? A reminder. I have the yearbook. You don't carry the yearbook everywhere. I carry the photograph. This is harder to ignore. I looked at her. You really think I'll forget? No, she capped the marker. But sometimes you still start believing old things. She touched the word lightly. So when that happens, remember this. I took the marker from her. Then I wrote the same word on her wrist. She looked down. I don't need a reminder. Yes, you do. Why? Because sometimes you still think you have to be perfect to be loved. Her face became still. I continued. You don't. The confidence left her expression. Not because she was hurt. Because she was seen. Completely. She looked at the word on her wrist. Then at me. You noticed too much. You taught me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she stepped closer. Do you remember what you wrote in my yearbook? Unfortunately. Say it. Find a better guy. And what happened? You corrected my grammar with violence. I crossed it out. You also kissed me. That was part of the correction. I smiled. And now? She laced her fingers through mine. Now you know better. I looked at the black word on both our wrists. Chosen. Not trapped. Not completed. Not rescued. Chosen. Again and again. Across cities. Across missed calls. Across changed plans and difficult opportunities. I leaned closer. I do know better. Good. Although her eyes narrowed. What? You never actually found a better guy. She stared at me. Then she grabbed the front of my jacket. Again. Years had passed since graduation, but some things apparently never changed. I found exactly the guy I wanted. Then she kissed me beneath the harbor lights. Slowly. Confidently. Like she was crossing out every doubt I had ever written about myself. When we separated, she rested her forehead against mine. No more goodbyes, she whispered. What do we call tomorrow, then? She smiled. The next page. And for once, I didn't try to write the ending before it arrived. I simply held her hand and walked forward with the girl who had crossed out my goodbye and spent every day after proving she meant it. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.